What is up everyone, my name is FMSorcerer, and today I will be showing you guys some really cool and unique ideas for Wizard101 that some of the Kingsisle employees may see and gain inspiration for new updates. Alright, so each time I do an episode of this series, I will first show 5 ideas of my own or ideas that you guys suggested from the last episode, and then I will show 5 ideas that players have suggested themselves on the Wizard101 forums. So the first idea for this episode from me is a mobile gardening / pet training app. Now I know this is kind of a thing with Grub Guardian already, where you can go online and you can train your pet by doing the games and the challenges that they have, but it's not that simple and it's a little bit tedious, and I think that so many people would be just enjoying the game itself in general if there was an app on your phone so that wherever you are and whenever you want, you can train your pet or you can garden your plants by giving them the different spells that they need. So I think this would definitely be a great addition to the game, and I hope that Kingsisle would consider adding something like this. Okay, so my next idea is actually a concept that I came up with a few years ago before I had a YouTube channel, and I've always wanted this to be added to Wizard101, and it was called Paths. So Paths would basically allow our wizards to seek completely separate studies that would accompany the main storyline. So an example of this is teacher training. This would give us the goal to become a teacher, and during this progress we could make our own spells. We could only use them in our training, but while we're doing this we could learn new spiral secrets and develop new magic. Alright, so another example of a career that you could pursue if you don't choose being able to train to become a teacher is the ability to create your own clothes. And doing this, you could learn secrets about the history of gear in Wizard101, where it came from, how weapons work. You could forge your own weapons, design your own wands, design your own robes and hats and boots, and you would basically be able to pursue this as sort of a separate class. Another example of this is exploring. If you didn't choose maybe clothes making or being able to train to become a teacher, you could become an explorer of certain worlds in the spiral and unlock zones that other people can't go to, unlock your own quests, and all sorts of cool stuff. So I think this would definitely be something that could help improve the storyline and just the interest from players. It would be a really awesome addition to the game. So here's my next solution for Wizard101. It's actually something that's not entirely new and that has been discussed by lots of the players of this game for a long time, and it relates to the whole shadow enhanced spells and jewel issue in PvP. So most people think shadow spells and jewels are too overpowered and broken in PvP, and it's not something that is new once again, so I'm not going to go over it and keep talking about it. But my solution for Kingsisle is a throwback mode. Create a separate mode in the arena for those who don't want shadow spells or jewels, and it would also create a separate rank. So for example, the very first day that you go into throwback PvP, you automatically have a new rank in your character book, and it's separate from regular PvP. So your throwback rank still counts as a real rank, but it's different, and you can basically do PvP over there, and then you can go and transition to regular PvP whenever you want, whenever you feel like doing it with shadow spells. And this is an easy solution because Kingsisle then wouldn't have to worry about losing players who like shadow spells and like jewels, or losing players who don't want shadow spells or jewels. So I definitely think that Kingsisle should really consider implementing this into the game, and that would be a really great solution. My next idea is super simple, but I think it would be really great, and that's a day and night cycle in Wizard City. Now, even though this is something that is really small, I think it would help draw in a lot more newer players who are just joining the game, and they would be able to see that the game has a little bit of realism to it and that it looks nice. If you make the first starting zone the first world that people are going to see when they start out playing Wizard101, and if you make it look nice and look presentable, they're going to see it and they're going to want to keep playing, or at least they're going to respect the game a little bit more. And also for the veterans, it would just be something that's really satisfying to see and just to enjoy the nighttime. Like, look at Wizard City and just imagine how nice it will look at night. I think that would be great for Kingsisle to add. And my final personal suggestion to Kingsisle for this video is the ability to trade treasure cards through our shared banks. This is something that Wizard101 players always ask for and always wish that we could have, because it is so tedious to have to ask your friend or get onto a second account to trade at the TC yourself so that you can do some PvP or do a really long dungeon or whatever it is you need the TC for. It would just be a really good benefit for the game, and it wouldn't really hurt anybody. I mean, I don't really see what's so difficult about adding the option in shared bank, or maybe they can do some kind of universal vault system. But yeah, I hope Kingsisle really listens to this idea. And now let's move on to the player ideas. So this first player idea I have to show on the actual website because there are so many suggestions that the player made, and it's so awesome. You guys aren't even ready for this one. So the name of the post is Small Little Touches for a Bigger Impact, and it was made by Camahawk. And I'm not going to read all of them because some of them are a little bit repetitive or they are already in the game, but a few of these are actually super good. And his main point that he's trying to get across is that the things that Wizard101 has to add don't necessarily have to be the biggest updates. They can just be really small details and still be super cool. So one of them I really liked is this one right here, which would be able to let you see your player's health and the enemy's health whenever the spell animation is going on in game. And I think this is a really awesome one because a lot of the times when you're fighting in a dungeon, you will be going against some enemy who's just like 7 feet tall and you can't even see what the damage was, and you're just like, wow, I bladed all that time and I fainted and didn't even get to see how much that did. So I think this is a great one. Another one that I really like is an all friends message, which would let you be able to send a text chat. It would be easier than a group on Wizard101 because a lot of people don't really use the group since it's, you know, not really the best way to communicate. They only really use it when they're signing up for a tournament, so I like this one as well. More dances / emotes for members like head spinning, bringing out your aim, one arm handstand, flexing, casting a spell animation, etc. I love the casting a spell animation and bring out your aim thing. Like, it's Wizard101. That should be a dance animation in the game, or just like an idle animation when you're not doing anything. You see your character do like little casting, taking out a card, and you just see them casting it, sort of like on the commercials. That would be a really nice addition. Being able to have a silver name instead of a white name if you're over level 50, or have a gold name if you're over level 100. Awesome idea. I love that one. Toggleable capes so that you could turn on certain capes for robes or turn them off if you don't want to wear them. Free stitch token collected from one-shot dungeons. Love that idea. Shadow magic and astral magic designed clothing. This is a super cool one. I would love this to be in the game because a lot of the times you only see people wearing like their school insignia gear and nothing really unique or special. A shadow magic and astral magic designed robe or hat would just be the coolest thing ever, and I would automatically change my stitches to that. But now let's move on to player idea number 2. Now I really like number 2's idea by a player, and this one is raid dungeons. Now I'm pretty sure that most people know what a raid dungeon is, but in case you don't, it's when you play other MMOs, there are like these super long dungeons they have to go through, and it always ends with a super powerful boss that a bunch of people have to team up to defeat. So sometimes it'll be 16 people, maybe 30. It's just a varying number, but it's always a lot of people that you have to have on your team, and it forces the team to really have to work together and have varying unique players with different abilities. Put that to the test against the boss so that they can all get their rewards at the end. So the player suggested that there would be raid dungeons that would have an 8-player dual circle instead of the normal 4. That would be an interesting mechanic to see Wizard101 incorporate. I don't know how Kingsisle could do that. Add it so that there's 8 players, 8 enemies. That would definitely be awesome though. I think that you could do it so that it's not a dual circle anymore, but it's like one line with 8 circles and then another line with 8 circles, and each enemy is lined up on the line and each wizard is lined up on the line. I think that would be really awesome to see. He also suggests that there are super long battles with really difficult bosses to fight. Just like I said earlier, that's how a normal raid dungeon usually is in MMO. That would make a lot of sense. It would be like Darkmoor, but even harder. Like, imagine how hard Darkmoor was when that came out. It was so fun though, like, because it was a challenge. I think that's something that we should have in Wizard101, also because it would help occupy our times. Like, a lot of the times people are like, there's not much to do once you beat the game. Well, if there are raid dungeons that are constantly going on every day with new events and different challenges, then people would have stuff to actually work towards. He also says there should be epic set pieces, so really good robes and hats and boots and wands. Definitely should be the rewards. It shouldn't just be going through the raid dungeon for no good rewards at all. We should have hats with unique stats. Like, if you don't want to make them too overpowered, that's fine, but they can have super unique stats that only come on the gear that you can get from the raid dungeons. And finally, he suggested sky temples, which would be like floors. So it would be like the raid dungeon, except a level goes up each and every level, and this is something that lots of veteran players always wanted in Wizard101, they always wanted like a super long dungeon that would go towering up with a different floor every time. And we've had a few dungeons like that. Right here I'm at Brisk Breeze Tower. This was one similar, Big Ben, but they weren't that difficult. It was just they were really long. So I think what Kingsisle should do is make it 15 floors like the player suggests, but not just make it a long sky temple, but something that's also really hard to complete, and the gear would be just amazing to have as a drop. So I think these are really great suggestions. Oh, and he also said for the Sky Temple that you start with 4 teams going into the Sky Temple together, and you would compete, and the best standing team gets the best rewards. And I think that's an awesome system. The only thing is, if you do something like this, you have to make it like Pirate 101, so that everything that everybody gets is equal. Like everyone gets an equal drop. So yeah, that's number 2, and I hope Kingsisle can add this into Wiz. So our number 3 idea made by a player would be the ability to negotiate with minions before we go into battle with them on defeat and collect quests. And he said this because sometimes when you do these quests, you'll defeat the minion and they'll just be like, oh yeah, why didn't you just say you needed it in the first place and give it over? And he's saying it should be like an option, and you can ask them, and if they're willing to give you the stuff, they'll give it to you, and if not, then they'll go into a fight with you. And I think this is a great suggestion. I mean, all it would do is just save 5 minutes. Like, it makes so much sense. He also says sometimes we fight the same mob and we'll need to come back later to collect something different. So instead of having to do that, it can be an option like a reagent to drop, or just like any gear drops that we can possibly get what we needed to have for later earlier, so that it will already be ready and we won't have to come back and fight the same mobs in the same zone and everything. So, you know, these aren't really that big, but they would definitely save a lot of time and probably be a lot more convenient for many players. For number 4, we have some nice pet ideas, starting off with the ability for our pets to have stat boosts when they are a baby. So you know how some of the newer mounts have like +2 damage or +2 pierce? Well, somebody suggests that we should have that for our pets, and she says this like, you know, we can already get stats on our pets, but it would be nice for people who don't always have the best luck with talents to just have a little, just 2% damage at the beginning. And I think that makes a lot of sense, especially if you still want to use it for PvP or for questing, but it's not mega yet. You can still get a little bit of extra damage, and it doesn't have to be that much. And they also made some cool pet ideas. One of them was for balance. You could have a little genie pet. I think that would be super awesome. Probably make it like the balance freak. That would be a sweet pet. They also suggested glow bugs or storm. We need this. We need shadow enhanced pets. Players have wanted this forever, and it still hasn't happened, and I'm hopeful that Kingsisle will eventually add shadow enhanced pets. I know we're getting a raging bull one in the future, they already announced that, but a glow bugs one would also be really awesome. And I think they came up with a Lulu pet, a winged sorrow pet, and one of those little gold eagles from Mount Olympus for Myth that you have to collect. You guys might not know what I'm talking about right now, but it's like the little collect things that you have to do when you're running around in Mount Olympus. That would be a really cool pet. Super unique, so I hope Kingsisle adds some of these special creative pets in the future, as well as the little starting stat boosts. And finally, our player idea for number 5 are gear accessories such as necklaces, rings, watches, wristbands, or gear particles that float around your wizard depending on what school you are. So for example, if you're a storm, you would have bolts and lightning striking around you and a cloud of rain, or if you're fire, you could have some smoke floating around your wizard or some flames underneath your feet. I think this is a super cool idea, and that it should definitely be an addition to our wizard's gear choices. It also would be a great idea because lots of people have wanted more customization, and I just think it would be a super creative thing. So that does it for all of the player ideas. I hope you guys really enjoyed this video. Now it's you guys' turn to leave some comments down below on new ideas that you would like to see added to Wizard101, and if Kingsisle watches one of these videos in this series, they may add a few of these things, and that would be super awesome and just a big impact for the game. But my next video will be Wizard101 Conspiracies. It'll be another new series that I'm doing on my channel, and it's completely unique to the Wizard101 YouTube community. So if you want to see that, make sure to leave a like, and I will see you all in the next vid. Peace.